guys, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with my first layout for a new series called the Unscrapped Bundle of Joy, where we are going to make one layout a month for our kids' baby albums. I'm collaborating with Melissa from Melissa Vining Create. She's incredibly talented, so make sure to go follow her if you aren't already. I'll leave her links in the description box. We decided to start this series because we are both incredibly behind on our baby albums, so we are really hoping that this will actually force us to make at least one layout a month. So that beautiful cut file I'm using is from Sierra APA Cut Files on Etsy, and I'm going to go ahead and use Coco Vanilla Studios More Than Words collection. I absolutely adore this collection. It's one of my favorite collections. It's probably my favorite collection that has ever been produced, if I'm being completely honest. So I'm just going through and trying to find a background paper. And I'm pretty decided on that pink watercolor paper. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm a little bit heartbroken that I used it, to be honest, because that was the last sheet of it I had left. But it's a beautiful layout in the end. I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to back my cut file. I mostly use scraps for this because I only got the 12 by 12 pack in this collection. I didn't get the 6, I think it was a 6 by 6 pad in this collection, but I didn't get it, so which was a mistake. I'll never do that again. But I am going to cut some of the yellow flowers off this beautiful floral paper for the centers of the flowers, and then I'm going to go through with mostly pinks and peaches for the actual flowers themselves. And then I use the sort of, it's not a dark blue, but it's a darker blue than the rest of the collection, that and the really pale blue. I use a couple of different shades of blue for the leaves anyway. A long-winded way of saying that, but there you go. You can see it's all finished. It's such a pretty, delicate cut file. I'm not going to lie, it took a long time to back this cut file, and I started out with it, as you saw, with the sort of glue and then trim out technique, but I did switch to the trace, cut and glue technique pretty much straight away because I was just manhandling the cut file a bit too much with that first technique, and I was going to damage it. So now I have a sheet of just plain white vellum, and I'm going through and tracing the outline of just the top word for now. I will do the whole thing, but I just wanted to do it in rows to make it easier on myself to line it up. So I'm just tracing around the outside, and then I'm going to go through with my scissors and roughly trim it. I am not being too careful because I'm going to trim it at the end after I've glued it. So I'm grabbing my cutting mat and little baby hands there, my cutting mat and X-Acto knife set, and I'm going to trim out the inside of the letters on my vellum. If you see little hands, you may notice them down in the bottom right corner. That is the child in question that I am scrapping. Her favourite seat in the house is my scrapbooking chair, and she will tolerate sitting next to me, but she prefers to be in the actual chair. So when I'm in it, she's as close as she can be. So once I've done that with the vellum, I'm just going to go ahead and use double-sided sticky tape on the backs of all the parts of the cut file that I've backed. So the thing if you don't already realize, if you've never used vellum before, is you can see any adhesive that you add through the vellum. So you have to make sure that you add adhesive strategically or use a certain kind of adhesive that can't be seen through vellum. So I'm just going ahead and using some double-sided tape on the back of all the backed parts of the cut file, and then using a thin strip of glue right around that skinny edge there, just for some added insurance, I guess. So there we go, I'm sticking it down, and then once all that is in place, I will run some more glue all around the outside edge. And I wasn't super careful about getting glue all around the edge, like exactly in every spot, because it's not going to go anywhere. So there we go. And once I've done that, I trimmed all the excess off. So you can see the whole cut file is done now. Gives such a pretty soft effect, backing a cut file with vellum. And you can still see all that beautiful pattern paper through. I love it. Go, and that is honestly most of the layout done for me. That's my title done. It takes up a lot of real estate on the page, so all I really need to do now is go through and embellish. And this photo was from my daughter's newborn photo shoot, so there's not a story I particularly want to tell. It's just a cute newborn photo. So yeah, I may put her age on the page, or the date on the page, a bit later. But for the moment, I didn't do any journaling or anything like that. So I'm taking some not double-sided, single-sided adhesive foam. I get this in packs from Spotlight. It's pretty inexpensive. And again, I'm just going to put that on the back of all the parts of the cut file that I backed with pattern paper so that it won't be seen through the vellum. And it doesn't really matter what colour it is because you won't see it. Just putting squares all over the place. There we go, it's all done. And that is pretty much where my photo and title are going to go. Just fiddling with it. So now my photo just needs, I don't do too much photo matting on this layout, so I'm just going to use some plain white cardstock for a thin border around my photo to begin with. And I am just using double-sided tape because my ATG is, well, it's not broken, but this child, my daughter, she loves the rubber end on it. She likes to chew it. So she always gets hold of it and she chews the rubber end and it breaks the tape. And I have to take it all off and reload the thing. So at the moment the tape is just broken. I really can't be bothered to reload it. So I love my ATG and it's so much more convenient than the double-sided tape that comes on the roll. But yeah, I hate having to reload it. So I'm pulling in some of the other bits and pieces from this collection that I have. I have the chipboard. I use a couple of pieces of it. I really like that phrase that says, "You make my heart sing." I think that's what it says. Something like that. But I don't know. I just didn't, I think it's just too geometric a shape with that circle. And it didn't fit with the organic shapes of the flowers. So it does come off. And I've switched out that darker floral piece for that lighter one. And I use that little banner. Again, I can't read what it says because it's so overexposed. I don't know why. I apologize for that. The camera doing very strange things. Hello, lovely, I think it says. Love that little banner sticker. I'm going to overlay that over the cut file. Still mucking around. Again, of course, I struggle with embellishments, and you'll see a bit of it in this video because I didn't want to cut it out because it would be the shortest video ever if I did that. So yeah, I've left most of it in. I'm going through, this is all just stuff I cut apart. I didn't get the ephemera for this collection, which I just couldn't get it at the time, and I haven't managed to get my hands on it since, which is a little bit sad, but all the bits that I'm using to embellish are mostly fussy cut out of the papers. So I have a lot of those really big florals. I start with these sort of sketchy watercolor ones, but I soon decide I don't like them, so I switch those. Well, I do like them, just not on this layout. So I switch those out for the more solid colors, the more solid colored flowers. And as soon as I put that big cluster on there, I thought to myself, yes, this is what I want. So I just keep going, and I pretty much just add a bunch of florals. I add a pretty large cluster under the photo there where I have that a large cluster. And then I'm going to tuck them all around the cut file. So I'm trying to fill in this kind of awkward little gap here. I like that big butterfly, but it does come off. I end up with a trio of 3. So just tucking them all around, and then I take the little sort of off-cut pieces I have and I tuck those in all the gaps in between the letters in the cut file. And I'm so pleased I did that. It just looks like it's all blooming and growing through the cut file. It's just so pretty. I love this collection. So I'm trying to use up all those little sort of, you can see I have strips where I've sort of just cut them off the edge of the page, and I like to use every little bit of my pattern papers that I can. I hate throwing away scraps, especially cocoa vanilla scraps, because it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite brand for scrapbooking. I love their stuff. There's nothing they release that I don't love. So still tucking, still fussing. I didn't like that. I don't know. It just didn't look right, that banner. I do like it. I've tried to use it a few times. I can't seem to get it on a layout. Still going through fussing with all my florals. So many florals. I was worried it was looking too floral at one point, so I asked some of my scrappy friends what they thought, and they said it looked pretty, so I just went with it. I really love it now. I think where the most critical of our own work, for sure. So going through, fussing around. I'm still trying to get 2 butterflies in that spot. I couldn't get it quite right, and the reason is that bottom corner was too blank, so I do end up putting in an extra cluster right at the bottom right there, but unfortunately my camera does cut that footage out, but you will see it in the final close-ups. So here I'm going through with splatters, of course. Just white acrylic paint watered down, and I'm using a tiny little paintbrush so I can get nice little delicate splatters. I didn't want any sort of big splotchy splatters on this layout. It's very feminine, very floral, very delicate, and yeah, oh, she was so little. She was only 5 days old in this photo, and she's wearing pink and she has that little flower crown on. She is beyond pissed. I mean, she was not happy about the whole situation. She was not a happy newborn. She had colic and reflux, and she didn't sleep, and she just cried a lot all the time. And she just didn't sleep very well. She was a light sleeper, didn't like to be disturbed when she was asleep, and she was just not impressed by any of the goings on this day. But yeah, it actually really cracks me up seeing her grumpy little face now. Oh, she's so funny. But I love this photo. So I'm just going through it with some tissue paper to add some soft layers behind my photo. I'm using this pink, and I'm just tearing the edges really carefully because you know what tissue paper is like. It doesn't like to tear anywhere near the way you want it to. So I do the soft layer of pink, and then I'm going to pull in some white, and again just tear all the edges, just leaving a little bit of a strip of white all the way around the pink, just to make it stand out on that pink paper. Otherwise you couldn't really see the tissue paper. So it's a nice way to do it if you really want an unobtrusive layer, is to use a tone-on-tone tissue on top of a pattern paper, but it was just a little bit too blendy for me. So there we go. I'm going to add in a few more florals, and my chipboard, I'm just peeling off a couple of layers because it was quite thick. Being very picky about where everything goes. Rearranging my florals. Now I'm going to start gluing everything down. I'm going to go in at the base of all the flowers and add some glue, and then right at the end I will curl up all the edges of the flowers to give lots of beautiful dimension. I never like to glue down the ends. I like them to stick up and be all textury, and yeah, that's my jam. Just going through and gluing. My camera, like I said, did lose the footage of me finishing off this layout. So all I do is add back in the butterfly at the top left. I add one at the top right corner of the photo, and then a little one back in that little gap in the bottom right. And I also add a flower cluster to the bottom right. And I throw in some Nouveau drops in the pearl white in little clusters all the way around. So there you can see that is the finished layout. I love how it turned out. I really hope you enjoyed joining us for this series. Don't forget to go check out Melissa's channel for her layout, which will be up today as well. And thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.